I'm a 21-year-old male living in a rented, one-bedroom house just outside of York in the United Kingdom. I moved in after my uncle, who had pancreatic cancer and was particularly close to me, passed. Now, for the record, he only lived there for 3 months, moving in after being diagnosed and actually passed in the hospital. So, what I'm about to tell you, it really chills me to the bone. I had just moved in and was pretty emotional about my uncle's death. Growing up without a father, he was like mine. It was 3 days after his funeral and I was pretty beaten up. I needed a place, but by the time it was quite depressing. So I was sat in my uncle's old living room and it was a hot summer's day. Well, hot for UK standards. I was just listening to music with my shirt off when I got hit with a blast of cold air. I stood up and started towards the direction the air came from. I walked to the hallway and stood at the bottom of the stairs. I heard footsteps from upstairs. Fear overcame me as I realised that I was unarmed and had no way to protect myself from this potential intruder. Not wanting to give the trespasser any more time and, against my better judgment, I began walking up the stairs. Now, the way the house was laid out, the stairs escalated up and then veered off to the left. Then, on a small and narrow landing area, were my room and a bathroom next door to each other. At the top of the stairs, before they turn left, there's a banister that has wooden sticks running up and down. I had a towel dangling over this bit and used this to my advantage. I lifted the towel minimally and saw my bedroom door was open. This was off to me as, just out of habit since a kid, I've always closed doors behind me. I heard rustling in my room and decided this was good confirmation for me to call the police. I felt my short pockets and realised I'd plugged my phone in to listen to the music on my speakers. Fuck, I whispered, rather loudly at this. I heard rushed whispers from my bedroom and realised my cover was blown. Still weary, I began creeping up the stairs as my bedroom door slowly creaked as it was pushed shut. I was not afraid to admit that I was scared. As I stood up close to the door, I could hear breath from the other side and see shadows through the slit at the bottom of the door. I reached for the handle and turned it slowly and silently and cautiously, before throwing it open, lunging myself into the room and screaming like a madman in an attempt to shock the intruder. After a moment of mad screaming, I came to my senses and, to my horror, the room, it was empty. At this point, I was beyond freaked as I looked around my room and realised that absolutely nothing was out of place. I scanned my room, checking in my small wardrobe to find nothing or no one. I felt as if I was going mad as I heard human whispering and with my own 2 eyes I saw the door close. However, I brushed it off as my uncle's death playing on my mind, but one thing still freaks me out to this day. As I was walking out of the room, I happened to glance at a photograph of a 4-year-old me, my mother, and my deceased uncle hanging on the wall. Everything in the room was how I had left it that morning. Even the jeans just underneath the picture hadn't moved an inch from what I remember. But the picture, it was upside down. This hasn't happened again since, and that freaks me out even more. Even though when I come home from work late at night, I swear that sometimes I hear someone or something quietly whispering from upstairs.
Being a 31-year-old female living in a large village near Oxford in the United Kingdom isn't a problem. What is a problem is when my husband goes travelling for to a month at a time. We live in a large 3-bedroom detached house with neighbours either side within shouting distance. We also have a huge, thick willow tree in our garden which looks scary but I love. In June a couple of years ago, my husband had to leave for 3 weeks to go to Argentina on business. I was upset and knew he was too, but it was part of his job and I reluctantly let him go. On the first night I was already missing him, and to try and clear my mind I took a nice, long, hot bath and put my earphones in. Dumb idea, I know. I was sat listening to Nirvana, bubbles all around me and candles lighting the room. Pure bliss. I was relaxing in my little slice of heaven, and above the angel voice of Cobain I swear I could hear quiet thuds. Yes, I love Kurt Cobain. I took my earphones out and could only hear the distorted fuzz of my earphones. Perhaps it was something in the song. I put my earphones back in and lost myself in Kurt's voice when, again, I heard the distinct thuds. This time, I rewound the song and listened. No thuds. I was unsettled but not scared and parted ways with Cobain and turned my music off. There was silence. The odd gust of wind that howled through the house. Then, silence. I jumped and splashed water everywhere, a bit jumpy at my husband's absence. I sat, shivering, goosebumps all over my body, fear and chills. I sat, still as a statue. I gasped. "With the lights out!" I fully wet myself as my music began playing through the earphones, at full volume, louder than I had had it before. I wanted to get out of the bath, but I was too scared to move. "It's dangerous!" "Shit," I murmured. Music was playing through my earphones again. I held the button in and turned it off. I decided to jump out of the bath, wrap the towel around me, and then I didn't know. My mind was made when I was sure I heard someone running down the hallway just outside the bathroom. I could even swear I caught sight of a shadow under the door. I shifted very cautiously towards the door, deciding I couldn't just stand there all night, and as soon as I reached to grab the brass knob, like something from a horror film, 3 of the 6 or 7 candles I had lit just flicked out. I didn't even think. I swung open the door and ran to my room, slamming the door shut behind me and leaning against it. Panting, I gathered myself and went to grab my phone. It was in the bathroom, and it was off. I panicked, aimlessly looking around the room with no end goal. Confused, scared, alone. What was even happening? At one point I thought I was dreaming, and exhausted I fell onto my bed, relaxed, beginning to feel it was all over. I lay in that state between consciousness and sleep, not sure what was happening. I was brought back to the waking world with a creak from the other side of the hallway. Disorientated, I climbed out of bed, put some undergarments and one of my husband's t-shirts on and headed to the door. The creak sounded like the bathroom, and I opened my door a slither. I actually came close to passing out as I noticed the bathroom door was closed. I swore to myself I left it open as I panicked and was genuinely questioning my own actions, and I stepped onto the hallway. I was skittish and jumped at the floorboards creaking. I heard heavy footsteps from downstairs. I was over the fear, slightly. I went to the bathroom and opened the door. All but one of the candles was out. I put 2 and 2 together and I told myself it must have been a draft. Right. I clicked my phone back on and stood in the silence of the bathroom. I was scared, confused, lost, and almost in tears. What was happening tonight? I was driving myself mad. My phone loaded and was searching for signal when About a Girl started blasting out loud. I dropped the phone and collapsed, crying into the room. I'd say around 10 minutes passed and again I exhausted myself. I stood up and walked to the landing. As I approached, I heard very loud thuds. 3 of them from just round where I could see, each one making me flinch, a sound echoing through the house. I opened my eyes to see a shadow race against the moonlight across the landing towards me. I screamed extremely loud, ran as fast as I could to my room, closed the door and pushed a stool against it. I collapsed in bed and heard thuds all night until I passed out from exhaustion. I woke the next day, dazed and unsure of what happened the night before. I looked around, cleaning up the mess as I went, trying to debunk what happened. I put it down to dampness on my phone screen causing music to play, drafts making bumps and blowing out candles, and the willow branches casting a shadow. The other 2 weeks and 6 days passed without further incident, and even now, years later in the same house, nothing like this has ever happened. I was scared that day, and until now, I have always suppressed this and never told anyone. Just beware. Creepy stuff can happen to anyone. It's indiscriminate and no one's safe. Watch out. Oh, P.S. I still love Cobain.